Hello and welcome to another edition of the Fabulous Woman podcast. This time round, you're going to be hearing from multi-potentialite NOVA REID. Intrigued? Well, stay tuned. Hello. Welcome back. But hang on, if it's your first time with me, then a big, ginormous hello. First time hello. I'm Marvin Cole. I'm the all-round nosy person asking the questions. I'm pretty used to that because I'm a journalist and broadcaster from Birmingham who's done that job for many years. 16 years of working in TV and radio news and current affairs. Now, this podcast is your one-stop shop for voices from women who are doing incredible things with their lives after triumphing over big obstacles. Although I'm not sure triumphing is actually a word, but I like it anyway. We've been all through sorts of things like this, and these fabulous women in some cases offer advice and inspiration to us for the future, which really is the aim of this podcast. So, NOVA REID is my fabulous woman today. She's a multi-potentialite. What the heck is one of those, I hear you say? Well, it means someone who's skilled in a number of ways, has many passions and creative pursuits. NOVA is many things, and I'm not going to give anything away. Well, a bit. Mental health work, ethnic diversity, filmmaking, weddings, they're all deep interests for her. So sit back, relax, listen and learn as I reveal NOVA REID, Fabulous Woman. As ever, with every episode, I always start with asking my guests to describe who they are.
I am a black woman. I am an entrepreneur. I am a change maker, and I am a wife.
Fabulous. So, for anyone who hasn't been nosying and looking you up online before listening to this episode, tell us more about what you do. What are you doing now?
I do quite a few things. So I think I'd be called something is floating around the internet called a multi-potentialite. So the overarching factor is I love helping people. So I help people be the change they want to see in the world. And I do that through diversity and inclusion consultancy. I do that through anti-racism training. And I do keynote sessions, workshops, online training, having difficult conversations with people. I'm also founder of a wedding blog and show called NOVA REID that celebrates diversity in the wedding industry, an industry that's very homogenous. So,
wow! So weddings and difficult conversations. Now they could have. It feels like they couldn't be further apart. But so let's talk about how you got to the wedding side of things. What motivated you into getting to set up the NOVA REID?
Frustration. I got engaged, was not somebody who really fantasized about getting married. I was a very independent woman. I was quite late into my 20s before I even found my husband. So I was career focused. So when I sort of stumbled across the wedding industry, it was an industry that I didn't know much about, did what most women, I imagine, who are interested in planning an exceptional day, and went straight in, got the magazines, and I flicked through two of them, and they have several hundreds of pages each, and I didn't find a single person of colour in any of them, not even somebody who was olive-skinned. I thought, oh, this is odd. And so at that point, I was also I just started working in mental well-being, mental health. And I was just going through my own self-development. You have to go through your own counselling and your own supervision to work in that field. And a lot about my race and my identity was at the surface at that time. So I remember consciously thinking, Nova, this is right at your conscious mind. Take a step back. Are you just being paranoid? And so I gave it some time. But I wasn't. It was the same things at wedding shows, just models on the catwalk were all white. Everyone was white on magazines. Goodie bags with tanning products in. Hotel brochures with
Sorry, I've got a laugh.
White couples. It was like, wow. Like nobody who's got a bit of melanin in them is getting married. And so I started it firstly to rant, and my story resonated with lots of other people.
And so that was online, was it? Or
yeah, it
did
was
you
just a
produce
blog.
it?
Yeah, wedding blog called NOVA REID. Just started to document my planning and to speak about the fact that why am I so invisible? It was bringing back feelings I had as a young 6 or 7 year old watching Disney and not connecting with the message, and not feeling like those stories were about people who looked like me. And I felt exactly the same in the wedding industry, and I was like, this is ridiculous.
So having done that, how long did you establish, or how long has the blog been established?
So I started it in 2012, and it was turned into a professional blog in 2014. So yeah, it's been 7 and a bit years since its first inception.
What sort of impact is it having?
It's having, to me, it feels frustratingly slow because I like to see things done now, but it is having an impact. There are changes being made. We launched our very first wedding show in London in April, and that received incredible national press on the BBC and also Refinery 29. And so it's definitely speaking to a demographic of modern couples who may or may not be having a multicultural celebration, but definitely don't feel like they are being inspired or represented in the mainstream industry.
Was it your aim, or what was your aim? Was it to shake up the industry, or, did you try and approach wedding publications to go, hey, this isn't my experience and the experience of other people of different nationalities and colours. Why don't you try and be a little bit more diverse? Did you try that? Or did you just go, right, okay, I'm just going to create this space that actually does reflect a more representative, a fairer span of people who live here?
I went to them first, and I wrote to them as a bride-to-be at that point saying, why are you not including me? And one didn't even have the courtesy to reply. I'm laughing because that magazine's no longer in existence.
Whoops.
In fact, neither of them are.
Oh,
and
my.
The second one,
Oh dear.
They came back and said, yes, we do feature lots of couples of different colours. And I thought, well, you're lying to me because I can see the publication here in black and white. And no, you don't. So I thought, rather than waste, it's supposed to be a positive period of my life, rather than waste my energy getting wound up, I'm just going to do my own thing. So, yeah.
Fantastic. And then let's talk about your difficult conversations work then, because, I see you on Instagram and on Twitter and LinkedIn talking about the kind of sessions that you're holding for professional organisations and corporate organisations, talking about race and diversity. How did you then make the step into that work as well?
Well, it was a natural progression from NOVA REID, really. What was happening was corporates or sort of well-known brands were coming to me saying, wow, your audience, though I don't have an enormous following like some of the more mainstream platforms, I have a very loyal and engaged one, and I know my audience intimately. So brands were like, how do we, we want a piece of that, and we're not reaching these types of people, they are our ideal clients, how do we do that? So I guess informally started offering them some form of diversity consultancy, and then it wasn't until he's actually an investor, but he was just giving me some free advice, said, you should formalise this. This is how you do it. And so it then became a formalised service that I offered. It was helping people learn how to be more inclusive without tokenising them. And it was drawing on all the other skills I already had from working in mental health and disability. I've always been an advocate for the underdog, and it's about helping people understand what reasonable adjustments are. There's a difference between equity and equality, so it just naturally transferred over into the corporate world.
Does it surprise you, the types of companies that approach you for this sort of advice?
No. What I often get is there's a lot of embarrassment sometimes from some either individuals or companies, because I work with small business owners and individual people who just want to role model change in some way. And sometimes there's an embarrassment that they are progressive, they are woke, they are liberal, or whatever the lingo is, and that they should know more or that they should be doing better. But I believe that we're all on this journey. We never know it all, and I think just going with curiosity and openness helps us all grow. So yeah,
totally. I mean, we all know we don't know it all,
yeah.
And I think it's our duty. I think we've got to tap into our own our own humanity and go, what don't I know and how can I go and educate myself so that actually instead of being all embarrassed and, I'm scared I'm going to say the wrong thing, why don't you just go and look for the information, ask experts like yourself, that's what companies are doing, or ask people, and say, just be really frank with them and say, I genuinely don't know. I would really like to know. Can you tell me something of your culture and, what is the right thing to say and what are your views on X, Y, Z? It's not hard. But I think, a lot of people don't want to ask. A lot of people are afraid to ask.
Huge fear.
Because of their own embarrassment. And I'd rather people ask. Than just not say anything or kind of go like all shy and quiet. That's.
Well, it doesn't help.
No,
it doesn't help make change. But yeah, fear is a huge component, and it just causes inaction. Yeah.
So let's turn the clock back. What are your childhood memories? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Hertfordshire.
What was that like? Where were you? Town, village?
Town, and I grew up in Watford, which is very different now than to what it was when I grew up. We were, there weren't many black and brown people around, and I didn't really notice I was different until I was about 7 years old, and it was just realising that. I wondered why I didn't look like everybody else. So like my mum is red skin, so we call red skin in our community. And I'd be like, why aren't I as light as you, mummy? I'd already received programming that told me somehow lighter was better. And I remember going through phases where a young girl across the road who didn't know any better asked her mum why I was the same colour as poo.
What?
Yeah. And that was... I guess that was the defining moment where I knew I was black and I was different. And what it triggered in me was that I was dirty. And so I went through a period of time which was devastating for my mum and dad, where I was trying to wash my skin off.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So what I find quite fascinating is how something that used to make me feel so vulnerable is now the background and the body of the work that I do.
How did you get through that time then, from that realisation at such a young age that this is how one girl across the road thought, but then it kind of expands, doesn't it? And that you realise quite a few people out there, plenty of people, think that we are not equal because of the colour of our skin.
Well, it went on and on. It's just, at different life events. So you're at school and then there's the boogieing. And then
the boogieing.
Well, there was some of that, to be fair. But the bullying, the racist tropes on walls, Nova is the N-word, go back to your own country, waving. So I still am aware that I have a gut response when I see a Union Jack flag. Not a Union Jack, an England flag.
Whoa.
Because they were used as a weapon with which to say you are other.
Oh.
So it was present sort of at every life event in some form of way, sort of every milestone, school, not so much college, but then it resurfaced when I was at university. Really? I was studying sort of professional dance and musical theatre. It's very much about what you look like. Again, I was a minority. Me and the 3 black girls in my year, and we were always mixed up. We did nothing like each other. They always mixed us up. Well, Nova, darling, you're never going to play that role. You're black, dear.
To your face.
Oh, yes.
It's horrific. Still happens now, that sort of thing, but I'd like to think, well, hopefully less common. So because racism is a mental health issue, it impacts on us and our emotional well-being. How did it impact on you through the years? I
mean, for me, so now I've done my own therapy, and two, I've done my own education around race matters. So I have the lingo and the language and the understanding and the emotional intelligence I didn't have back then. But back then it manifested in anxiety, low self-esteem and low confidence. And I think when I was younger, there was an element of self-hate. That didn't last long. I think being involved in performing arts and acting and things like that helped, but there was an element of self-hate.
You know, I that resonates with me massively.
Wow.
I went through that 18 at university. I think some people, I don't know, I can't speak for everyone, but I think, some people listening that will resonate with, and at some point in their life, it was something they went through, but hopefully have gotten through. Because I think, as you grow with age and experience, then you can throw off some of these issues, and you become much more educated about self and history, Black history, right?
Yeah.
So you're then filled with pride about our history.
Yeah.
The problem is that it is it's played down, isn't it? We all know the issue about Black history not being taught to the extent to which it should in schools, but then we have Black History Month. Yeah, great. It should be Black History Year. We should just be talking about the wonderful cultures
and part of British history.
In Britain. Yeah, right. Thank you, David Olasoga, for your great work in this area. Thank you, David. The self-hate, it's horrific. When you're going through it, it's horrific.
Yeah.
It really is.
And I remember conversations, and it's not to say that I didn't have them with my mum, but I have stronger memories of my dad trying to build me up. You are worthy, you are beautiful, blah, blah, blah. And I remember thinking, but you're biased, you're my dad. So whatever you say to me, it's just going over my head. But I remember him consciously doing that.
And so, apart from those horrible times, handling, life through the lens of racism, what were your younger years like? Were they fun?
They
great
were
experiences?
fun. So yeah, minus that component.
Yes.
They were fun. I come from a strong family with strong values. We're very close. I have a brother who's an illustrator, so we're very creative. My mum's a cake baker. My dad's an athletics coach, so we were always doing stuff together.
Fabulous.
And both me and my brother used to compete in athletics.
No way.
Yes.
What,
my brother did very
jumper?
well. I loved the 100 metres,
Okay.
also long jump. My brother, he was just good at everything. He still holds the national record in the triple jump for, I think, the under 15s, the English record.
That's amazing.
So whatever he did, he was great at. So yeah, lots of cheeky family days out, and yeah, a lot of fun.
Excellent. So what would you say has been the kind of biggest adversity that you've overcome in your life? Is there anything you can think of in particular that you've been through and then come out the other side, would you say?
I mean, there's so many, overcoming personal tragedy, but I think the one that is feeling more prevalent at the moment is just the self-worth piece, the self-acceptance, because if you are rooted and your self-worth is strong, then whatever goes on around you, you will be okay. And that has been life-changing for me to get to a place where, and it's not to say that I don't get off balance and I don't experience low self-esteem or low self-confidence every now and then, but I bounce back and I know what to do, and I know that whatever happens, I will be okay.
What do you do? Are there any tips and advice for those of us? Because we all wax and wane through that.
Yeah.
There's some days we wake up, we feel mighty. We're going to take on the world, the sun's shining. Yeah. You look in the mirror, like, I look good today. How you doing? And then there are other days, for whatever reason, I find it's when tiredness strikes me,
Sure.
and I'm exhausted, have a bad night's sleep, and I just feel like, I don't want to get out of bed today. This is going to be the slowest, toughest day, and everything is bad and nothing good's going to happen. We all slip between those days, right?
Yeah.
So any tools, tips that you use that we could use?
Yeah, I mean, aside from I am a massive advocate for either therapy or coaching or both, something where you have somebody who is a professional to give you an external perspective and support throughout, and that could be professionals or a network of like-minded people, but having external support massively helps, gives you perspective, and doing anything that changes your state. If you wake up in the morning and you automatically think you're not going to have a good day, you're not going to have a good day. it's reframing that. Sometimes you need to literally change your energy. So it might be, if you're going down this spiral where you're ruminating, go and do some exercise. Stand up, sing, put your favourite music on that energises you.
We do exercises, stretching exercise in the studio.
you literally want to change what is going on in your body physiologically, and so exercise is a really good way of doing that. Positive affirmations, and sometimes recognising when you need to rest and when you need to stop. Bang on.
The power of the mind is so strong. When you said that, I'm a big fan of Jamie Smart's work, Clarity.
I have to look it up.
Yeah, and it's just about how you should believe in yourself and the experiences that you have. Trust in your own experience, trust in your knowledge, so that then we are not overthinking, we are not worrying about things that are ahead that we can have no impact on, and just be self-assured and go, okay, this is going to be fine because I've done X before, it's going to be fine. I've gotten out of Y before, so why can't I get out of this again? Or just clarity of the mind and not worrying about something you cannot affect. It's really important.
Yes.
Well, thank you for those tips. What is troubling you at the moment about the current news agenda? Okay, what isn't? Is that an easier question?
Okay, there's two things, but I'm sick to the back teeth of even hearing it. But it's Brexit, but it's very much like what we just expressed. That is not something that is within my control. Just tell me what the implications will be so I can get on and move on with my life. But it is troubling. I guess the element of it is just seeing racism being normalised by people in positions of power and how very dangerous that is. What feels like an increase in hate being expressed more overtly. Those sorts of things do trouble me. And also just the hidden racism, the biases that come out in sort of everyday comments by prime ministers, calling Muslim women in burqas letterboxes and things like that. It's problematic. Yeah.
It's interesting because, so many of us, right-minded feel the same, right? But what do we do? Because almost, I see these headlines every day. And we all debate them every day. This is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. But I often get overwhelmed by a feeling of powerlessness in that, what can we do to stop the tide, right?
Yeah.
Do you ever get that feeling, or what do you think about, is there any way that we can, or what can we do to stop that feeling?
I don't get the feeling of powerlessness. I get the feeling of exasperation sometimes, because I think people don't realise how much of the solution that they are part of, because they think that hate, racism, divide is something that's so big, so prolific, when it just takes every single one of us to have the curiosity to start self-interrogating our own bullshit, because we're all capable. We do it now. There's been another massacre in America with men who are white once again using their guns as weapons to cause mass destruction. And so, of course, there is rightful anger, but then disgusting human beings, racist this, racist that. And what we end up doing is dehumanising each other on both sides. So the extreme, and don't get me wrong, that these people who are causing these atrocities absolutely must be held accountable, and anger is rightful. But we can do that without dehumanising each other, because we're not going to get to a place of understanding why we are thinking the way we're thinking and why we are causing harm to each other if we keep dehumanising each other, because dehumanising is what enabled slavery to happen for centuries, where you think somebody is subhuman and it's dangerous.
But then what are the solutions? How do we not do that then? What do we do about moving that forward? And it makes it even... It makes it even harder, when the President of the United States...
that's hard for me. I'm not saying this is easy.
Without saying anything, downright and might as well be endorsing white supremacy. It makes it even harder when, our new Prime Minister has espoused racist views quite openly and been allowed to in his writings and what have you. So if these people who are leading, these two powerful countries are in these positions of power, it's almost like everyone who wants to be racist is feeling buoyed to use the language. So where do we go from there? Like, if it's happening?
I think chunk it down. So thinking about President or Prime Minister is too distant from where we are. We can't affect that change other than being strategic with how we vote, and even that only has a certain impact. Look at this situation we're in, Brexit. Yeah. But it's chunking it down. Who is in your family who you are letting casual racism pass by? Who is in your friendship circle that causes microaggressions that you haven't spoken to about it yet? What is going on in your workplace? What's the community like within your church? What can you be doing to have these difficult conversations or to drive forth initiatives that make these environments more inclusive, or where you can have uncomfortable conversations about how you make impact within your own communities?
Tackle it at grassroots.
Yeah,
bang on. You talk about church. Does faith have a place in your life?
No, not anymore.
Now listen, you can't sit here and say that to a journalist, Nova, because I'm like, okay, so there's a story. Let's hear the story.
It's not a big story.
Right?
I think I was christened, Jamaican family. You have to go to church.
It's interesting. I didn't have to go to church.
I was made to go. The only thing I loved about church was the gospel choir, and so I used to sing with the gospel choir, not so much anymore, but that was the thing that was where I found my joy. But it just didn't.
What denomination? What were you like? Pentecostal? Can't remember. No.
Not that.
No,
not Catholic.
No.
Just
a C of E, but like there's all
Church
sorts of different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because my cousins, so my dad's side, my dad's brother's side, my uncle's side, they are all Seventh-day Adventist. But for some reason, I don't know, we didn't go. Our little caucus of coals, we never went to church. I was never brought up in the church. And it was just the strangest thing, because then, I'd be with girls at school, they were all like, yeah, church, Sunday school. I'd be like, what? Yeah, I do believe and all that, but that's not about me. But anyway, I just thought, because you mentioned church, and I just thought, does it have a place in your life?
I have faith, I have belief in things that are bigger than us, but I'm not a practicing Christian. There are too many things that don't land with me and my own beliefs and values.
Gotcha. So then we're almost coming back full circle now, because I want to know where you're going from here. What's your trajectory looking like? Short, medium, long-term future plans for Nova Reid's empire?
There's a project that I'm not allowed to talk about.
I was going to say, don't be drawn, because you know what journalists are like, right? I could probe you to spill all the beans.
I can't.
But I know that you be as covert or as overt as you would like.
There's definitely a movement for more individual people who are wanting to consciously raise socially conscious children and not to pass on sort of microaggressions, hidden racism, and just to better understand how to have conversations with children about race. So I have an online anti-racism course, and that's gaining momentum. I'm doing a masterclass around this subject. And yeah, more and more businesses are starting to engage in making their organisations actively anti-racist, which is encouraging. And I'd love to do more TV and more film just talking about this stuff. But yes.
You talk about TV and film, of course. You did a lot of that last May, didn't you? When
Yes.
a certain new royal was accepted into the British royal family, namely the Duchess of Sussex. You were on the circuit in the run-up to and on the day, weren't you, in your capacity as wedding expert? What was that experience like? Where were you? Where were the hits that you were doing? For which channels? And what was the experience like?
It was wonderful. It was overwhelming, and it was incredible, and it was stressful all at the same time, because I had 15 media interviews in 1 week in the middle of hosting a self-care retreat in Marrakesh.
I don't even know how that's possible. Did you actually split yourself in two?
I managed.
I remember, didn't you come back from Marrakesh, like literally, and then from the airport, did a car pick you up for Sky from the airport?
That's
and
correct.
took you straight on the day of the wedding? Or was it the day before?
It was the day before the wedding, but the driver forgot where he parked.
Crazy thing.
Driver forgot where he parked, and so I was sitting in Gatwick Airport while he ran up and down all the car parks. I just sat there and ate a sandwich. I thought, what can I do? So I got there was cutting it fine.
That is hilarious.
So it was with Sky News, it was with BBC One, BBC News, BBC 5 Live, RTL, there was a New Zealand station. Yeah, multiple.
Excellent. And was that the first time you'd done such a round of interviews? Because, you know, there might be someone sitting listening going, well, wow, how the heck did you do that? How did you prepare yourself for that mentally? Tell us about that process. How did you handle all of that?
It was the first set of main... I'd done some interviews before, like podcasts and things, but it was the biggest main stage I'd been on. And I have my former acting training to help. So I used to act and work in musical theatre professionally, so that definitely helped. But I remember thinking, this is going to be very, very intense. I need to up my self-care. So I was just doing more things to look after myself, more exercise, more time, making sure I slept well, ate well, all of those things that I knew when I'm normally burning out, you drop all the things that are a natural coping strategy. So I increased them, mindfulness. And also, again, it's self-belief. It's trusting that you know your subject, because they found me through New Bride. They'd seen articles, videos, topics where I'm speaking quite candidly about race and what it may or may not mean to have Meghan in the British family. And they saw that I was an authority on that. And so they all wanted to speak with me. And I think I owe the Duchess a lot, because they're still calling me up every time there's something about Meghan in the press. Nova, can you comment? So it's great.
Every week at the moment, isn't it? Well, the right-wing papers got it in for her.
Oh, God.
It's really interesting, actually, you know, because I've trained a lot of people who are experts in whatever their field is to talk on TV or radio, and the advice is in the title, expert. You have to know your subject, and actually a little bit more around that as well, because if you're doing a live spot, like all of those hits you were doing, most of those hits that you were doing were live, weren't they?
For the royal wedding, I did a documentary with Sky News. Other than that, everything was live.
So in that moment, you don't know whether the presenter asks you a question and is expecting an answer, and you don't know whether the presenter's been told in their ear, okay, well, we just got to keep this going for another 5-10 minutes, right? And then, so you don't know, you might be questioned on the spot for a very long time. So you need to have a real depth of knowledge, not just, I think I know a little bit about that. Yeah. You can't wing it.
No.
You can't wing it. So you can't call yourself an expert unless you really... truly are. Did you get any tricky questions that you were like a little bit flummoxed by and thought, how am I going to answer that? I
remember, so the eve before the wedding was the day I was delayed at the airport because my driver forgot where he parked. So when I arrived, I had wanted a time, an hour, to get my head out of self-care retreat and travel mode into I'm going to be on telly in front of however many million mode. And I didn't have that moment. And I remember panicking. Well, not panicking, but feeling anxious about that. And then I just had a moment where I just centered myself and just Nova, trust that you know your subject. And I went on stage and I just trusted that I knew my subject, and I did. I don't know how else to say it. It's like, if you know your subject, then whatever they ask you, you'll be able to give a response to.
Yeah. Good. Can we talk about your film?
Yeah.
So you're also a film director.
Yeah, I guess I am.
Producer and director, because you produced your own film, didn't you? So how did that, what was it?
Yes.
How did it come about?
So it's called Other, and it came about when in 2016 I was on a short course that was introduced in conjunction with the BFI, British Film Institution, and Creative Skill Set, where they were trying to encourage or get momentum from more people in the TV, filming, directing, producers from the Black and BAME network, and also more
BAME.
Women. Well,
But we're not Black and minority ethnic.
Okay. You know what I mean.
I do. Sorry, rude. #rude.
And also more women. And so they run some training, and I felt a little bit lost creatively at that time, and I'd started going to a network called Project Noir, which is all about uplifting the voices of
Charlene Flanders.
She's incredible. I love her.
I love her.
And she said, it doesn't matter whether you create and it's just for you, but if you're a creative, you need to create. And so I had New Bride, but I was just writing about weddings, so it wasn't exercising that muscle for me. And it was just really supportive and inspiring, and they encouraged me to just create. So I got accepted onto that course. I think I saw it advertised in that network as well. And then it was a few months later, I just said, right, I want to have a conversation on camera about race. Who would be willing to take part? And I had a network of people that were very, very generous, and a cinematography team who were very generous with their time and expertise. And I put a call out for a few others, and that's what we did. We just had the cameras rolling, and we were talking about what it means to be Black and a person of colour in the UK in the middle of all this Brexit.
It was superb. Can we see it anyway?
It's currently being submitted to film festivals.
Ooh.
So you will eventually see it online, but it can't be online until if I want it to be successful, it has to stay offline in terms of the submission process.
Is the trailer still out there?
It is.
I'm just thinking about making sure that I can release the trailer so people can watch that at least. It was an amazing piece of work.
Thank
really
you.
Interesting, very intense.
I was so vulnerable that night. I couldn't even watch. It was
very impactful. And you also got some fantastic contributors like Toby Reddin from Black Ballad, Denise Rawls as well was in there. Superb. So definitely check out the trailer. Are you going to do any more? Anything? Are you going to develop that kind of side of your work?
I would love to. It comes down to having support and investment to be able to do it justice, and also to be able to pay everybody who's involved, because that was my passion project and everybody dedicated their time. So I would love to be able to do it, because I think the conversations are very important for people to hear. One person who came is a white man, and he said that's the most powerful conversation I've ever heard about race in my life, and it's educated me on many levels that any conversation I've had before haven't. So
that's outstanding. And really, that's all. That's the importance and the impact of these conversations, isn't it? To try and just for everyone to try and understand a bit better what it is like to feel othered. Yeah. Right. And with that project, where does your confidence come from in that? Because not everyone's got that confidence to go look at that scheme and go, "Ooh, yeah, I'm going to apply for that." I mean, what? Really? Because some people would look at it and just go, yeah, it looks great, but it's not for me, and I couldn't handle any of that. I might dearly want to, but I am not in a place where I can. I mean, where does your confidence come from? What advice would you give to someone who would...
I would just say I had all those thoughts as well, but I did it anyway. So it sounds cliche, but
like the book.
Feel the fear and do it anyway.
That's right.
What are you going to lose? And just feel the fear and do it anyway. It's just, you don't grow without feeling fear. You don't grow without discomfort. So if you want to make change, or you want to expand yourself, or you just want to get curious, you have to get outside your comfort zone. So it's not to say that I don't feel those things, I just do it anyway.
I love it. And I think, on top of that, you joining me for this time, this for me in this whole series, and bringing a whole series of fabulous women to the table to discuss their lives, is for me about inspiring other women to just be bigger, be bigger, be greater, be true to themselves, and to be good to themselves, right? To be kind to themselves. I wonder, given everything you've talked about, everything that you are, everything you've been through, everything you do, are there any words of inspiration or advice you can offer women who, might be sitting here, or anyone listening to this and going, I need to try and change things in my life. I want to make an improvement in my life.
I'm going to answer this question with a little bit of a story to give context. So I lost somebody very dear to me in my life in 2016. It was the same year that I did that the filmmaking initiative, and we would be the same age, 37. We lost him to bowel cancer, and it was the most devastating thing, watching somebody who you love and also is the same age as you die, because you suddenly realise you are not immortal. And one of the gifts that we had with Jermaine's passing was that he had time. So he had time to spend with us, to tell us his hopes and dreams for us. And one of the things he said to me was that, Nova, you are not living your purpose. And at that time, I was working in another job and doing New Bride as a side hustle and everything else as a side hustle. And a series of events happened, and I just took the leap. I thought, I don't know how long I'm going to be here. And if I continue to shrink myself, if I continue to play it small, if I continue to be putting what other people think about me ahead of my own progress, my own growth, and ahead of the impact that I can have with my family and other people's lives, then I am doing myself a disservice. And there was something that Tyler Perry said recently that really resonated with me. People's lives are wrapped up in your dreams. And if you are not honouring your dreams, or at least striving towards achieving them, then that has a ripple effect with who you also impact. So there is a bigger purpose. We are serving more than just ourselves. And I just think we do ourselves a dishonour to not be who we truly are. And if we are in an environment where we cannot be who we truly are, then we need to think about how we move ourselves from that environment so that we're in one where we can flourish.
Nova, thank you.
You're welcome.
What incredible words of wisdom from Nova. She really is amazing. So multifaceted and totally slaying in everything she puts her mind to. So please go and find her. She's at Nova Reid, REID.com. And you can find all her social media in the podcast descriptions in the app or the site you're listening on. Now, it would really help us out if you spread the word, if you could find a couple of minutes to share the Fabulous Woman podcast with your friends and family. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts and YouTube, and we'd love a feedback comment or a review. Hashtag FabWomanPodcast or at Fabulous Woman Podcast on Instagram. Thanks very much for listening. Come back for another one soon, won't you? The Fabulous Woman podcast is a Raging Brum production.